Hello everyone, now that he's announced for Tekken 8, welcome to the Leroy Primer. Leroy lacks a lot of generic tools like down forward 2, hop kick, and even a standing toe kick, but he makes up for it by being a generally quick character and a counter hit beast, which includes both a wealth of crush tools and an obnoxious parry, and he has plenty of lows to crack a defense along with a powerful stance. Plus he has a dog, so if that's your style, you're going to like him. As with our other primers, this video should give you a good quick rundown on the character to jumpstart your learning and get you playing some matches. We will keep the technical lingo to a minimum, but you should still have some knowledge on basic standardized Tekken terms, especially notations and terms for various game mechanics. In other words, this guide is meant for beginners, but you should already know a little bit about the game, just not necessarily the character. If you are brand new to Tekken, check out the resource links in the video description below. I've included several, including a system basics guide that operates as a tutorial for the whole game, since Tekken doesn't really have that built in. To me, I think it's incredibly important to go over that before trying to tackle character-specific guides. But enough of all that, let's begin. First, it's important to recognize that Leroy is a strong poke character, which is important because poking is a fundamental skill to slow people down and catch some easy advantage situations. Both his jabs and down forward 1 have great string follow-ups, which is always going to make those tools better. Standing 3, forward 3, and forward 4 are all safe, quick mids with string follow-ups. Down 2, down back 4, full crouch down forward 4, and sidestep 4 are incredibly good low pokes with strong counter hit potential. Now, if you really want to break a defense, you have a couple options. His pokes can certainly do this slowly over time, but he also has a powerful knockdown combo with down back 3 1+2, as well as a strong poke combo with down 3 2 that will take him to stance for more pressure. Once they start ducking, you have a bunch of powerful mids to choose from depending on your risk tolerance. Up forward 3, down 1+2, and the 1+2 string are really good for low risk and moderate reward. The 1+2 string is notable since it's all mid, it's all a combo on normal hit, and only the very last hit is unsafe on block. Plus, if you do 1+2, 1+2, you can simply wait to see if any of those punches hit before finishing the final attack. At the wall, this gets really scary since it can splat. If you're a little farther away, consider using one of your approach tools like forward 1+2 or running 3. Up forward 2 and up forward 4 are also very good, and the latter is a launcher, they're just a little slow. Another thing you can do, which we've alluded to a little, is lean on string pressure to nab counter hits. 1+2 is a strong one, of course. Forward 3 1+2 and while standing 3 1+2 are very similar, although they're not safe on block. We already mentioned his jabs, down forward 1, down 2, and full crouch down forward 4. Some other common ones, 2-1, forward 2-3, down forward 3-1, and down 1-2. We're not going to go over the intricacies of each string he has, just understand that the goal is to freeze your opponent with the follow-up threats. If they're not patient, then the counter hits are going to hurt. Given that a lot of what we've mentioned can take you there, the last thing we'll mention is his stance, which is called Hermit. It operates not too unlike his neutral. 3-4 is your chunky low threat, but everything else is designed to either counter buttons or put you into a good standing position. For example, both of the lows, 3-4 and back 4, give you advantage on hit. Back 4 also high crushes and will juggle on counter hit. Forward 4 is your low crush and a mid launcher, and although not advantage on block, 0 still works well for you. Back 1 is a straight up pressure tool that gives advantage on block, hits hard on normal hit, and launches on counter hit. If you just need something fast, forward 1, 2-1, 1+2, and Hermit 4 are all good options. Only 1+2 is unsafe on block, but still not too bad. And Hermit 4 has a follow-up, so again back to those string threats, which for that move is actually really important because it's the only Hermit move that stays in Hermit afterwards. Regardless, if you go to Hermit with advantage, it's really dangerous for them to hit buttons. Now you can't block in Hermit, but it's unique in that it has substantial defensive options. The one Hermit attack we didn't mention was Hermit 1, which is a punch reversal in addition to being just a safe mid. If you don't do anything in stance, like no buttons whatsoever, the stance has an auto low reversal which will allow for a free follow-up. Pressing down or up in stance will do a little sidestep, and you can do his back 2 parry from stance, which we'll talk about in a minute. Point is, just like his neutral, you want to keep the pressure up and maintain a low risk versus reward while keeping them thinking twice about challenging you. So we're going to start here with the counter hit tools because they can be used for both offense and defense, and we kind of glossed over them in the last section. We didn't say it explicitly, but instead of ending your strings, you can simply substitute in your neutral counter hit tools in most cases, which is a way to give yourself more options. He doesn't have a typical Magic 4, but he has two similarly fast tools to make up for that, back 1 and back 1+2. Back 1 has more range and is safe, but doesn't give a full juggle like back 1+2. Back 1+2 is also not too unsafe, so it's still not an incredible risk. His 1-1 string can also be really strong for interrupt since the whole thing is guaranteed if the first jab lands counter hit. And then all the strings we already mentioned can be really good for this purpose since so many are incredibly fast. So 1+2, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, forward 2-3, forward 3, and so on. Some of these will come with some risk, of course, but the necessary response will be different for each, so mixing them up well can make playing defense against Leroy exceptionally hard. And if you need crush tools, no problem. He has an orbital, which is a safe mid jumping launcher, and down back 4, which will go under highs and gives a mini combo on counter hit. Up forward 3 again deserves an honorable mention as well, since it's faster than up forward 4, has more range, and can still wall splat. All that said, Leroy is a strong block and whiff punisher too. 1-2-4 is above average damage for a jab punish and takes him to stance. 2-2 is only slightly slower and beefier damage. 4-4 is the same speed if you prefer that. The 1+2 string is your next tier, and then after that you can start launching with down forward 2. Crouch is mostly a standard affair, with while standing 4 is your quickest, safest option, then while standing 1-4, and then launch time with while standing 2. While standing 1-4 does take you to stance, so it's notable for that. Of course, all of these are good for whiffs as well, although make note of forward 2-2 and forward 3. The former is very unsafe on block but a launcher. The latter is a high but safe on block and crazy range, so both are important to keep your opponent a little fearful at range. Beyond that, make note of his armor move, down forward 1+2, which is also a wall bounce. And then we'll save the most annoying one for last, which is his back 2 parry. Much like Jin's, Leroy's parry merely moves himself out of the way, so it will parry knees, elbows, etc. in addition to the normal punches and kicks. This is not standard for most reversals, so it's a notable perk. It does have a canned attack, which you can do by pressing any combination of your punches, but you can also do any of your normal kick attacks, or by simply waiting a moment, you can do other punch moves. This is most helpful if you parry a move that has slow recovery, so something that might normally be safe, you may be able to launch it. This is often the case with slow pressure tools or armor attacks. Either way, the parry activates stupidly fast, so you can fit it in practically anywhere. Excellent tool to make your opponent slow down. Also, along those lines, something to note, if you do Hermit manually with 3+4, the auto low reversal activates immediately. So you can use that instead of a low parry if you want. Just like with back 2, the Hermit parry will work on everything, even weapon attacks, so very useful in a bind. A few quick final items to wrap up Leroy. First, not much of a grab game, so you can skip those unless, as usual, your opponent is just not good at breaking them. Second, we'll skip juggles like normal as well, since those are straightforward. I've provided a link to some standard combos in the video description below for when you get to that point. Third, we haven't mentioned it, but Leroy does have a very unique once-a-match move with his cane. It's a safe, rangy mid-launcher, so it is very good, but once you use it, no more for the rest of the match, so just pick your moment wisely there. Next, his Rage Drive is a safe 3-hit mid-string. No juggle, but does hefty damage if it lands, and it can splat from really far out. On block, it does give a lot of advantage, but this is only useful at the wall since it has tons of pushback in the open field. And then lastly, a word on his tracking. His homing tools are very good. In the neutral, back 4 is a safe rangy mid that does solid damage, very abusable. Forward 2 is actually a homing move as well, so if you're noticing a lot of stepping at close range, forward 2-3 does really well there. We didn't mention it earlier, but Hermit back 4 is homing as well, so it doubles as an anti-step tool when you're in stance. Down back 3 might as well be homing given how ridiculously hard it is to step. Lows that track well are highly valuable, hence the reason that's important. Most of Leroy's tools track very well to his left, but not so much to his right, especially sidewalk, so unless you want to go for broke with a down forward 2 or forward 2-2, always be using your homing tools or be mindful to realign yourself often. This brings us to the end of the primer. I'm hoping this information was succinct and helpful for getting a jump on the character, but feedback is always welcome. Be mindful that in-depth discussion for game plans and move attributes will be saved for intermediate guides, although since we have the more robust basics guides already for Tekken 7, true intermediate guides will be something to look out for with Tekken 8. Lastly, big thanks to our patrons. You guys are the best and that support means more than you know. But to everyone, stay safe and we'll see you next time.